going to invest in Canada, Mr. Speaker.
The federal budget is out. Could an investment provide a lifeline to Alberta's energy sector? The province plans to close 20 beds for mental health patients at an Edmonton hospital, and the opposition goes on the offense.
They need to reconsider whether this is a good idea.
Why it hasn't been passed, we think that it just hasn't been a priority.
2 years later, the Canadian Cancer Society is still waiting for legislation banning tanning beds for youth to be implemented. And many are flipping out over how a playoff game was decided in Calgary.
I don't think it should ever come down to a coin toss in the game of hockey.
And joining us this week, we have Dan Tenser, media personality, Tristan Hopper, National Post reporter, and Annalise Klingbeil, journalist at the Calgary Herald. Good evening, you three. Nice to see you.
Good evening indeed.
All right, first up, the federal government tabled its 2017 budget this week, and in it, funds that Premier Rachel Notley hope will help stimulate our province's ailing oil and gas industry. A one-time $30 million payment has been earmarked for Alberta. That money will help get laid-off oil and gas workers back on the job and clean up the thousands of abandoned or orphaned wells in Alberta.
This is money that we've been strongly advocating for over the past few weeks and months. We will leverage this money to aim more resources at putting Albertans back to work and reclaiming orphan wells.
Annalise, $30 million sounds like a lot, but will it be enough to make a difference?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, it's in the scheme of the overall budget, which I think was over $300 billion. I mean, by my math, that's 0.01%. So it's a first step, but a very, very small first step. The Petroleum Services Association, they wanted $500 million, and they're getting 30. So, I mean, it's something, but I think it remains to be seen what sort of impact and how many out-of-work oil field workers will be put back to work with $30 million.
Well, Dan, the Premier sure seemed pleased with it. Should she have pushed for more?
Absolutely. I don't know how you can step up to the podium and pretend like 6% of the ask is some sort of major win. I mean, we've got thousands and thousands and thousands of these wells that need to be cleaned up environmentally, and is a perfect opportunity to put a lot of these unemployed workers back to work. They ask for $500 million to get it done. It's obviously a great goal on multiple fronts here, and to get 30, sure, we can discuss from a budgetary standpoint. My major issue, though, is why Premier Notley would stand there and pretend like it's good news instead of saying, you know what, this is 6% of what we need. This is not good enough. We need more. She sort of vaguely hinted at trying to leverage it for more without getting any details on how she's going to do it. I don't know if she's going to take the 30 and hit the casino and try to put it all on red and double it again, or what her plan is exactly.
Which that is illegal, but Premier Notley.
But yeah. So, but $30 million, not nearly enough. It's a nice start, but I don't think we should pretend like this is exactly what we need, because it's just not.
Yeah, it seems so little. Tristan, so many folks have said that it'll make the most difference, higher energy prices and pipelines. So with that, Donald Trump announcing this morning he's granting the permit for construction of Keystone XL pipeline. So.
Yes, yeah, I always find it weird whenever the federal budget comes around and people are like, oh, how are they going to help Alberta? And, you know, as Albertans, I don't think we should want the federal government to, you know, help Alberta. I mean, the only thing that's going to really help us is if oil prices go up, or if there's a bunch of new pipelines constructed. So, you know, you should be focusing more on the Keystone XL thing being built, rather than, you know, how the federal government is going to spur innovation here. Because they would probably just give $100 million to Bombardier somehow, and that would bring back the oil sands. But I actually did the math further to what Annalise was saying about how small $30 million is. And the time it takes you to watch Alberta PrimeTime, federal spending will equal $36 million. So we're about 52 minutes worth of federal spending is $30 million.
Holy man.
Yeah.
I love when you do your math. He does that often on our show, everybody.
No one checks it. It's all wrong.
So you're safe. All right, next. Doctors in Edmonton are criticizing the province's plan to shut down 20 beds for mental health patients next month at Alberta Hospital. In an open letter to the health minister, the doctors have called it a recklessly misguided decision. The beds are for patients who have already been treated but are not ready to be reintegrated into the community. The move would save about $3 million, but more money will go toward opening 20 new beds at another Edmonton hospital, the Royal Alex, for mental health patients there that need serious care.
Placing Albertans, vulnerable Albertans at risk. And so we're bringing it to the government's attention for a reason. They need to reconsider whether this is a good idea.
Physicians are advocates for their patients, and they've reached out to me, and I'm very happy to meet with them and to hear some of their concerns.
AHS says it also plans to open 3 homes with 15 total beds in central Edmonton for patients who are done treatment but don't have a place to stay. Dan, back to the doctors coming forward about this. That says a lot about how upset they are.
Certainly it does, and it sounds like the dialogue had been going on for a few months prior to this announcement. And I suppose, you know, to put it just as plainly as I can, I'm going to go ahead and take the words of the frontline physicians and workers ahead of, you know, a group of bureaucrats who sat in an office and made the decision. When you look at the total number of beds, it's a lateral move. It's basically shifting the deck chairs a little bit. Certainly from a frontline health perspective in this province, anybody that's been to a hospital recently, anybody that's been on a months-long waiting list, anybody that's had a surgery delayed multiple times, anybody that's been released days early, you understand the challenges of space in the healthcare world. Now, mental health is a different side of it that I think less people have familiarity with, but you can understand that the same challenges likely exist on that, you know, part of the healthcare system. So I think we're probably going the wrong way here, and I don't think we need the same number of beds or less beds. I think we should be trying to increase it. I can certainly appreciate why the frontline workers would be upset by this. Tristan,
what do you make of all of this?
Oh, I love these political. This is the kind of political story I like because it's super boring. Basically, the system works. So you've got. I don't think there was any malice or ill will here. The government basically, well, we need beds for really mentally ill people, so well, we'll just take money from, you know, these not so mentally ill people, and then as that's put forward, doctors approach the Wild Rose, and then the Wild Rose brings it up in the government, and you know it's probably going to be fixed in the end, because when the Wild Rose is telling you to spend $3 million on something, you know, the NDP probably will end up doing it. So yes, mistake made, pointed out, will probably get fixed. So it seems fine to me.
It seems fine. Can't believe you said this was boring. I guess in
No,
your
it's
sense,
not boring. No, the issue is boring. I mean, versus like, you know, a politician, you know, has been backhanding staffers for 20 years. Yes, it's simple mistake, no villains, everything's fine.
That's what I mean. Annalise, of course, the doctors have been speaking out, naturally the opposition as well. Who else should we really be hearing from with this?
Well, I think there is that one voice. I mean, I agree with Dan that the doctors are the people on the front lines, and they, I'm thinking, know what is best in the situation. So that's a great voice. We have the opposition obviously weighing in, the health minister. But the actual people who use these beds, I think, is one voice that's been missing from this. It kind of seems like that move where we're cutting these ones, but we're putting them over here, and maybe it's a little bit different, but maybe it's just like so it would be helpful to hear from those people who are using those beds about how extremely important they are, how important that they're at this location, how important it was for their treatment and their recovery, and what this will actually mean, or if, you know, having a bed in one of the homes that they're talking about opening, if that would be okay. So I obviously I think the doctors are kind of speaking on behalf of these people, and I would think that their opinion is very valuable, but the actual people who use these beds, I think, is a voice that's missing in the conversation.
Yeah, I think we'll probably hear from them in the next few weeks anyway. All right, time for a short break.